Monday, January 1st, 2024, and it's the first of the year, and it's a 1 seed for the San Francisco 49ers. Wake up with Damon and Larry. Good morning. Happy New Year to all of you. Larry, you know, we got going 4 minutes late for coming after New Year's Eve. Really ain't bad, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, we showed up on time. We just had a little pre-show chit-chat. So, yeah, it was, I had the alarm came quick because, I was up late last night making sure that, my partying children were home from their parties. But other than that, it was a pretty quiet night with just me and my youngest and my wife hanging around the house. Quite contrast to New Year's Eve's of past.
Yeah, I mean, I remember young Damon Bruce and old Damon Bruce, and young Damon Bruce wants to smack old Damon Bruce in the face. Look at what you've become, sir. But, wives, kids, moms in town, and that'll do it. That'll absolutely do it. And let's face it, New Year's Eve has become amateur hour out there. I mean, it's for people who don't go out all year long. I used to go out an awful lot. I used to be like, Mr. Let's do something on a Wednesday night. That doesn't happen very much with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, but
no, Larry, believe me, as somebody who's had the 4-year-old and the 2-year-old, I'm very, very, very familiar with those days. It is kind of a special anniversary for myself and my wife because we don't celebrate a lot of different things, but one day that we kind of celebrate that maybe other people don't is the day that we actually met. And we met on New Year's Eve from 1994 going into 1995 and got married in 99. So
was it a random bump in? Was it an arrangement? Did someone try to put the two of you in the same room together to see if it would work? Or was it just, hey, chick at a party, how you doing?
Well, it's like I come from a pretty big family, right? So I've got an older brother, I've got an older sister, I've got a younger sister, and this just happened to be a college friend of one of my younger sisters who showed up at my parents' house. I actually met her in my parents' kitchen for the very first time.
So right away you like the Niners had home field advantage, Larry.
Home field advantage. I'm 2 years older than my wife. So, I had more maturity. No, I didn't really have more maturity, but you know what I'm saying? I was older and I was on my home turf and, so it's amazing. It's amazing. So we met that night in my parents' kitchen. We started dating later on that year and there you go.
Well,
here we are,
that's fantastic, man. That is fantastic. And I guess the whole point of this is how important it is to have that comfortable home field advantage in life and certainly in sports. My goodness, Larry, every single coach sits down and writes a list of goals before a season starts. And I think the first thing on every single coach's list is simply win your division. Because everything that good starts there.
Yeah.
Win your division, and then beyond that, can you take it to the extreme of maybe you will even have the best record in your conference? The San Francisco 49ers under Kyle Shanahan in year 7 have had maybe their best year under Kyle Shanahan all the way around. When you walk around the entire car on the car lot and you're doing your 360 looking at the car for the first time, when you look at this from 360 degrees, I really do think it's Kyle Shanahan's best season as a head coach. And therefore, it's the best 49ers season in 7 years. And they've accomplished not just everything they hoped to accomplish, they've accomplished even more than they wanted to because they've got a punted away game in week 18, which means they have the luxury of, let's call it, extreme rest. Not only will they have a bye week, they've got a built-in throwaway late preseason game against the Rams that should be conducted as a preseason game. That's something you and I talked about last night. And let's start there this morning.
Yeah.
Throw it all away in week 18, right? If you're important to a title run, hopefully you can be kept off the field entirely.
Well, the thing is, and that's going to be an impossibility, right? Because it's a team sport, and you got 22 starters on offense and defense. Doesn't even include your special teams. You won't be able to rest 22 guys, so you're not going to be able to rest all your starters. You're going to have to roll some guys out there. I think guys understand that, but for everybody that I think had to have rest, which are Eric Armstead obviously needs more rest, and Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner and, a couple other guys.
Hey, I saw him putting layers of tape on Christian McCaffrey's calf on Sunday.
Christian
So
McCaffrey needs to sit it out.
Yeah.
Sit him out. And you have other guys. You can go with JP Mason. This is kind of the advantage of not having gone with Mason or Mitchell all year, is that you've gotten to this point and they're totally fresh. So, you can get through a football game with Mason and Mitchell. You don't have to have Christian McCaffrey. I saw the hit that George Kittle took yesterday on the leg from a Washington defender.
Larry, that could have been ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus. The whole thing could have been blown up in that one play. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so, I guarantee you, and the guy came back in the game because he's an all-time tough guy throwback, but he's feeling it this morning. Sit him out. Sit out anybody that you need to get rest. And the 2 weeks is just awesome. That's just a perfect amount of time. They won't get I don't even entertain the idea of, they could get rusty. They're not going to get rusty because they practice. And when you practice, you're still playing. You're just not taking hits. You're basically it's not like they're going on a 3-week vacation to Bermuda. They're going to be in Santa Clara lifting, meeting, and practicing and honing their craft as their body recuperates from daily almost hitting, definitely weekly hitting that goes back to the 4th of July. So, some of these guys really need it. And it's funny. It's like they're the America's modern day gladiators. So we don't really, ever think about it, but they're real people behind those hits. And these guys don't feel good on Monday as the season progresses, and they don't feel good after the game as the season progresses. And the older you get, the harder it is to bounce back. There are a number of guys, John Feliciano, and, you can play some backup D linemen, Robert, all your young guys, D Winters and Jalen Graham should get some run. Robert Beal Jr. should get some run at defensive end. Everybody, all your quality depth needs to see the field in this final game.
Luter sees the field. Verrett sees the field.
Verrett is interesting because Verrett was not healthy in this, or was not up in this last game, and I don't know why. I'm not sure if it was health related or just they wanted to get Womack out there, but I've said it to you a few times. I'd rather them go with the younger guys, Womack and Luter, over, the veteran guys like Logan Ryan and Jason Verrett. If they can. Obviously they may have to go with Ryan because he's so versatile and he can play inside. But get your young guys on the field as much as possible.
We see Danny Gray for the first time ever.
Would love to see Danny Gray. Tay Martin is another guy. The 49ers have a handful of guys. And it's like if you were at training camp and you're familiar with the talent, man, this is going to be a very encouraging week 18 from a personnel standpoint, because there's a bunch of talented players that really haven't gotten on the field yet. And Winters and Graham, I think, are at the top of the list. Those guys are starting caliber linebackers that just have never played hardly this year. Winters a little bit more than Graham, but basically neither has played any significant number of snaps, because you've got Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, then you got Oren Burks, you got Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, you got Curtis Robinson, you got other guys. So they'll lean on their depth here. Curtis Robinson's another guy. The guy they just acquired, Sebastian Joseph Day, probably get some run in this last game. Maybe guys like Taylor Hawkins off the practice squad. Willie Snead off the practice squad. This is a perfect spot for Willie. T.Y. McGill is going to get some run in this game. So, yeah, it's a time to look at your depth, heal up your wounds, And it's really a break because this Rams team is coming on, and it was going to take quite a bit of energy expended to beat them.
Oh, it
And
was going to
now,
be a real big boy football game. So
yeah,
you get
absolutely.
to really dodge all the wear and tear that comes with a division rivalry and a Rams team that is just sick and frickin' tired of losing to the Niners in the regular season. I mean, NFC game, title game withstanding, Sean McVay is not happy with his regular season record against Kyle Shanahan. So he would have gotten kitchen sinked. And it's good that the 49ers can really, as much as you can professionally look past a football game, they have the luxury of looking past their final regular season game. And again, all that you hope to accomplish as a team in a regular season has been accomplished before the regular season even ends. So that's how good of a season it's really been for the 49ers. And it's really been a great couple of seasons for the 49ers. And we've seen, an awful lot of people and pundits and media folk, just complain and rain criticism from the high heavens upon the choices that this front office has made, the way Kyle goes about executing a game plan, which, like anything, if you want to nitpick it, if you want to find something that you don't like, you can look at it and find something that you don't like. But what you will find is a historically prolific, spread the ball around, share it with everyone NFL offense. And Larry, that's where we start our Just the Facts, maybe our most famous of all of our segments here on Wake Up. The 49ers, before we get into the individual numbers, just as a team, with 4 players surpassing 1,000 yards from scrimmage and Brock Purdy being over the 4,000-yard mark, the 49ers became the 4th team in NFL history to have a quarterback with 4,000 or more passing yards and 4 players with 1,000 or more yards from scrimmage. Beyond that, if you'd like something that is just theirs alone, they've done that too, Larry. The 49ers are the first team in NFL history to have a running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, each post 1,000 or more yards from scrimmage in a single season. So, one of the common criticisms is Shanahan tries to do too much. He should get into a game and he should stick with something that works until it doesn't work. And there's a part of me that does agree with that. Really, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Kyle has become the best in football at spreading it around and making you wonder as an opponent where the next punch is coming from. And they did so in historical, prolific fashion all regular season long. And remember, the regular season isn't even over.
It's unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish this year. And you think about this being, you said something early on about this could be Kyle's finest year. I mean, he had to deal with the landmine of the guy we thought was the guy at quarterback isn't the guy. The guy that we lucked into at quarterback is the guy. And how do we commit to the guy that we didn't think was the guy and somehow part ways with the guy that we thought was the guy and spend a lot of money and draft picks to acquire because we told our owner he was the guy? How do we, how do we surf that whole wave and, successfully? And they've done it.
Right.
What
if
Purdy's
you screw up a pick to that degree, you better come back with some sort of historic evidence that we made the right choice after all, and they've got that in spades.
Exactly. They were going to be questioned, and it's funny when we showed up in training camp. The one thing that was clear as day to me was that Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, 3 of their top weapons, were all in big-time shape, primed for career years. We said it. We talked about it. We analyzed it on a day-to-day basis. But It was really clear with McCaffrey in minicamp, and then it was really clear starting in training camp that Deebo was in great shape and Ayuk was having an all-timer and that McCaffrey was going to have his best year. And just that alone gave you confidence that this was going to be a good offensive year. But you still had a big question on your offensive line. You still had a big question at quarterback, and Kyle made it all happen, and it all came together, and they got just enough out of their offensive line, and Purdy became a star. let's be honest. I mean, is we can talk about Brock Purdy, the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, but this guy passed Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jeff Garcia. I mean, he goes 22 of 28 yesterday for 230 and 2 touchdowns, 4,280 yards on the season. The guy has gone from, just a guy who's, getting reps behind Nate Sudfeld to the most prolific passer in any single season in the history of this storied franchise.
Right. The team that in our lifetimes reinvented the topic of quarterback, the single most prolific passing season in the history isn't Joe Montana. It's not Steve Young, and it's not Jeff Garcia. It's Brock frickin' Purdy.
And don't let anybody tell you that, it's modern football and this and that. He did it in 16 games.
Right.
The same way that those guys accomplished their yardage total in 16 games, prior to the NFL adding the 17th game. So it's like, yes, he played in the 17-game era, but he did it in 16 games.
Right. Now, so the word asterisk in San Francisco sounds like a badge of shame because it was associated with Barry and steroids and blah, blah, blah. Asterisk was just, let's point out something was different between those times and that time. There is no Roger Maris going on here. It wasn't a 17th game that made Brock Purdy get all these numbers and records. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact we're not even going to see Brock Purdy in that 17th game, right? I mean, you got to start Sam Darnold against the Rams. That's why Sam is here. So, and again, I actually think that will be a good thing for the 49ers coming out in the wash of the postseason as well. God forbid something happened to Purdy and he goes down in any way, shape, or form. Darnold getting some real live reps in a game that matters, in actual moments of a football game that matter, not just victory formation, is good for everything that goes into the postseason. So that's a good thing too. You were talking about Brandon Ayuk, and again, it's always quarterback or defensive stars, and I feel like we haven't discussed Ayuk enough, and Ayuk certainly has separated himself from just about all other wide receivers in franchise history. And this is a team that, again, has had some very special wide receivers in franchise history. Brandon Ayuk has 7 games this season with 100 or more receiving yards. That's the third most in team history. Jerry had 9 in 95. Jerry had 8 in 89. And Jerry had 7 in 1990. And Brandon Ayuk is now tied with that 1990 season of Jerry Rice for 7 games with 100 or more receiving yards. So when you're on a list with only Jerry Rice, that's a pretty good list to be on as a wide receiver for the 49ers.
No doubt. And to me, Ayuk, unbelievable. Wasn't it his 600-yard day of the season? It was guy,
7th, Larry.
7th 100-yard day of the season?
7.
Oh, okay. They said on the broadcast 6th. But yeah, I mean, the touchdown from Purdy to Ayuk was just a thing of beauty. And it really, it showed, I mean, this season showed what a tough guy Ayuk really is, but also to me the signature play in some ways of this season may have been in this Commanders game, simply from the standpoint of you have Purdy kind of showing that what makes him the quarterback that he is.
Right, escapability.
It's that athleticism, and it's this escapability, and it's the quickness, and it's the play extending quickness that he showed. He spun out of pressure there. He finds Brandon Ayuk. He directs him to an open spot, and then he delivers a strike right on the money. It was the late in the down throw that Jimmy Garoppolo could not make that kept the cap on the Niners offensively, and despite the presence of Shanahan and all these weapons, is Jimmy couldn't make the late in the down play that Brock makes repeatedly.
I mean, you're quoting Greg Cosell verbatim right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, Greg, it's funny. I always joke about, they've now created all these soft ways of saying you failed, right? He's not there's a lot of, guy used to be a hacker. Now there's a lot of swing and miss in his game. There's a little bit too much swing and miss in his game when they're talking about a bad hitter. And yeah, I mean, this is another example of that. But yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy, really bounce back. I mean, this was the big question coming into this game was going to be the Ravens showed like how to beat Brock Purdy. And at least they claim they did, right? Which is flood windows that he typically likes to throw in the intermediate and down the field, in the middle of the field with all kinds of extra bodies and force him to make throws outside. And Washington copied that formula to some degree, and he was forced to make some plays outside, and he looked a little uncomfortable early, but he adjusted. And, that was the question is like, did the Niners have the answers to the defensive wrinkles that the Ravens kind of showed? And I think in this game, they kind of proved that they did.
Well, against the caliber of the Commanders secondary, I don't know if it's exactly a straight draw one line through the next. I mean, the Commanders found themselves deep into their secondary's depth chart before the game even started, and then it got worse for them in the game. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's anything that really phases Brock, including the game that he is throwing 4 interceptions in. Again, sometimes you show who you are when things are going at their worst, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to maintain a strut when things are going well. It's another thing to not have a rattled demeanor about you when things are going poorly. And I was really impressed by Brock about that. And I know that this is people saying, this week it sounds like some evidence of significant quarterback play being in that young man. It's the clarity of hindsight is amazing. It really, truly is. Speaking of Brock, Larry, he's the first 49ers quarterback with 30 touchdown passes in a season since Jeff Garcia back in 2001. The franchise record is 36. That was Steve Young in 98. Young did it twice. Garcia did it twice. Joe Montana, John Brody, and now Brock Purdy is in that 30 touchdown neighborhood. He also became the 49ers single season passing yardage leader, as we've already discussed, and he did it in 16 games. So no Roger Maris asterisk needed in any way, shape, or form. And now we get to the real impressive number. His 8 games with a passer rating of 120 or higher are tied for the second most in a single season in NFL history. I mean, prolific efficiency is what the 49ers have come to expect from this guy, and he delivers more often than not. It's been one of the coolest things I have ever seen since covering Bay Area sports, any team, any season. In sports, we're programmed to expect things, but we're also programmed to not expect things. Even while Kyle Shanahan was cutting Trey Lance, he couldn't have expected this from Brock Purdy. He's making the hardest choice of his career, and it turned out even better than even Shanahan could have possibly imagined. This is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the 49ers. That's a big mouthful of quarterbacking compliment.
No doubt. I mean, that's why this, it's funny. It's like it hit me watching this guy, in his rookie year that, just in camp, and in mini camp, that what we were looking at was nothing normal. It wasn't normal to see a guy drafted last show up in mini camp and literally master every drill like he had been there for 5 years. Right. And that's what he did. That's what this guy did. And when I kept seeing it, and I'm like, am I watching what I think I'm watching? And, you doubt yourself because it's like the too good to be true thing. How many things in life are too good to be true? In some ways, Brock Purdy's too good to be true. And immediately you're like, oh, there's got to be another shoe to drop here. This has got to be, fool's gold. There's got to be some return to the mean, or what, there had to be some bounce back,
market correction,
something. And it was, everybody was logical to be expecting that and to be waiting for that. And I understood that, but, the more I saw this guy, I saw this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
He's got, not only does he have all the physical traits that you're looking for, arm strength, quickness, body strength. He's kind of a thick guy. It's as far as he's not super tiny, even though he's not the biggest broad-shouldered 6'5" guy. He's not small. He's 225 pounds or whatever.
He's got some size on him.
He's a decent sized player, and then he's also got great quickness. But his true gifts are, the heart, the brain, everything that
you can't see.
Stuff that you can't see, and that's why people miss, because you can't see what makes him great. It's not readily apparent unless you actually watched Iowa State football. And how many of us actually watched Iowa State football? Not very many. And so it's like, I've really laughed to myself when people scoffed when I was like, man, this guy's a little bit better than you think, and it was like, oh, come on. It's either Lance or Garoppolo. And yet I've been at all these camps and all these practices, and this guy was clearly better than Garoppolo, much more consistent than Lance, much, much better of a playmaker than Sudfeld. And it was like, I'm sitting there watching this going, am I watching this right? And sure enough, here we are, a couple of short years later. This guy's not just a starting quarterback of the team. He's a star. And if he wins if he finds a way to finish this and get this done in Vegas, this guy is going to be the biggest story in the NFL, regardless of team.
Which means he's the biggest story in American sports.
Right.
That's what that means.
That's an amazing distance to travel from Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft. Nobody really believes in you. You're going to get cut for Nate Sudfeld. To you made the team. You've won games. You've won playoff games. I mean, if by chance this guy gets to and wins the Super Bowl, 2-0 last year, I guess 2-1. He would wind up being 5-1 in the playoffs if he wins the Super Bowl, with an unbelievable statistical resume and an incredibly strong regular season record, if you want to give him that. So it's an amazing story. It absolutely is an amazing story. And then to see him get the game ball last night, to see Trent Williams embrace him outside the locker room and just say, hey, man, way to go, to see his teammates kind of support him. Debo walking in with a Brock Purdy for MVP jacket that Kyle Juszczyk's wife made. I mean, it was easy, but it was classic. And Brock Purdy is just continuing to play at a very, very high level. And people laughed. I said he was better than Herbert. I had Bruce Jenkins send me a note. Oh, you may want to rethink that. Stick to baseball, big boy. I got it over here. You're going to be just fine over there. I'm not saying that, Herbert sucks, but I mean, Brock Purdy's playing at a very, very high level, and just because he's not 6'5", 230 with an absolute howitzer doesn't mean that in any way he's some low end second tier quarterback.
Right. And I think one of the biggest reasons why Brock Purdy gets denied by people who want to deny what they're actually seeing is because they're overly invested in pretending that they know about the draft and selling the draft as its standalone media event that it's become, and the importance of the draft. And Brock Purdy has essentially spit in the eye of all the draftism out there. To me, I think it's the exact opposite. I really do. Like, this just shows you the importance of the draft. Forget the fact that he might have been passed over all of those rounds. The point is you can find an NFL player anywhere in that draft. Drafts are important. And Brock Purdy, I think, gets scored against because he's diminished the draft, when I think if you want to look at it from the other perspective, he has illuminated how important it is. You can find a franchise-changing player in the last round of a draft. It's not just Tom Brady anymore. It happened again. It wasn't lightning. Lightning is struck twice, I guess. So
isn't it classic? Isn't it? I mean, not to interrupt you, but isn't it classic how we're in a market now, Damon, where Trey Lance and James Wiseman were drafted high, and Trace Jackson Davis and Brock Purdy were drafted almost at the very bottom.
Yes.
And yet Trace is worlds better than Wiseman, and Purdy is worlds better than Lance.
Yeah. No, it's really something else. There is an awful lot of correlation there for sure. You're probably aged out of having seen the movie Ratatouille, Larry. Have you ever seen Ratatouille, the Disney movie, Pixar movie?
I did. Believe me,
Okay.
I've got 4 kids. I've seen Ratatouille.
Okay.
And it's a very well-made flick.
It is, and the whole point of Ratatouille, the restaurant critic at the end.
It's better with a couple gummies, but yes,
like all Disney movies. Yeah. But look, the whole point of Ratatouille is the very embittered restaurant critic who thinks that greatness must be, French-born, blue ribbon trained chef, and that's the only kind of cuisine he's interested in. The entire aha of that entire movie is him realizing, not everyone has greatness in them. Like, that's a lie that a lot of people are sold. Everyone can be great. No, not everyone can be great. Greatness is not an option for everyone. But greatness can come from anywhere. It can come from anywhere. Look at me getting all Ratatouille on everyone, but it's the truth. Greatness can come from anywhere. It's not within everyone, but it can come from anywhere. And
Wake Up, Jump the Shark. It was the Ratatouille show, and their numbers plummeted from there. It was their famous Ratatouille Monday on January 1st, and it took the whole thing down.
Did you see how stoned Damon and Larry were for that January 1st show where they talked about Ratatouille for 2.5 hours?
I mean, it was a breakdown of animated stuff. I thought he was great. I thought he was funny. I enjoyed it. I took Tate. We had popcorn. I told him no better.
My wife said, "What do you want to put on?" I got Disney Plus. And I said, "Honey, I wrote down one name and I put it in an envelope."
Let me tell you, Larry.
It's Ratatouille. Ratatouille. We're watching Ratatouille.
Hey, let me tell you, that rat had some ACLs on him. I'll tell you that, Larry. And similar to the way he went through all the junky food, I go through each and every draft prospect, and I take a deep look, a deep dive. Ultimately, what we saw there with Ratatouille is a rat that really took a deep dive. I take a deep dive when I'm looking at free safeties, Lowry.
People are going to think the show's about to end if we're doing Ralph and Trent already talking to each other. So let's
shorten the show.
Let's welcome everyone to Wake Up here with Damon and Larry. Happy New Year to you, Niners fans. You are the 1 seed. You are home for the postseason. And should you go to the Super Bowl, that is an 85-minute, 95-minute plane ride into Vegas. So the team's not going to leave the time zone for the rest of the year. That is a luxury unto itself. And they have the single biggest, I think, force multiplier of who the Niners are. And Tim Kawakami was writing an article pretty much about this. And I was reading a little of it this morning while I was making coffee to come on down here and talk with you, Larry. The whole point of the Niners is they're pretty much good enough to beat anyone, anywhere, anytime in the regular season. But if you want to be dealing with a monster, bake in a little rest into that equation. When the Niners have had their rest, when they've been healthy, that's when they've put their most overwhelming statements of football out on the football field. And what a luxury that they've worked all regular season to be able to afford for themselves the rest that is now built in, not only to the bye week, but thanks to the Arizona Cardinals. Muffin baskets for everybody in Arizona. Send flowers to the Bidwells. Send flowers to Kyler Murray, and send the biggest basket you got to James Conner. Oh my God, Larry, the Arizona Cardinals, the worthless, hapless, always pain in the ass Arizona frickin' Cardinals did the Niners one of the greatest favors any team has ever done for another team by taking out the Eagles at the Link on Sunday. What an unbelievable turn of events. So not only do you have the wild card bye week built in, but you got a full-on it don't matter week 18 game against the Rams. I never really thought that was going to happen. When When the 49ers dumped the game to the Ravens on Christmas, I thought that ship had sailed. I thought that they were going to have to go 2-0 because I really, even though I'm Mr. Anyone could beat anybody on any given day, I didn't see the Eagles losing at home to the Cardinals, but it happened.
Well, I know. And way to go, Jonathan Gannon, and way to go, Cardinals. And Kyler was great, and Dortch made a huge play. And yeah, I mean, the Eagles are reeling, and their fans are jumping ship. They're booing their team off the field. The play calling in that game was horrible by Sirianni. Literally, Eagles fans who were in the Super Bowl last year praising Sirianni as better than Shanahan and one of the top-tier coaches in all of football. And here we are, January 1st, 2024, and there's people, get rid of this guy, and they're ripping his Italian heritage. They're ripping his, I mean, it's like, this guy can't coach. But some of the plays yesterday, I mean, they had like a 3rd and 16 play, and they ran Hurts off the right side like he was going to run for 16. I mean, it's like, what the hell play call was that? A.J. Brown's looking around like, dude, remember when we used to throw the ball, I don't know, down the field on 3rd and 16? They're in a bad way right now. The Eagles are in a bad way. And the Cardinals, I mean, that was a perfect spot for them. It's like they're trying to send a message. They're trying to establish a culture. And they went a great distance to establishing a culture. They didn't have Budda Baker early in the year. They do have him now. And he's obviously a great, great player. He made a number of big plays yesterday. But, it's interesting, Damon. You hit on one other thing about the Niners and how they with rest, they're really dangerous. If you just chart and you say, well, what is it? What are we really talking about? What's the impact of fatigue? Okay. Where are you seeing it? And to me, there's one stat that you got to look at. Look at the Niners missed tackles. Okay. This is what it's been this year. Week 1, 7. Week 2 against that's Steelers. Week 2 against the Rams, 8. Week 3. So they're not early in the year. A lot of times teams miss tackles because there's not a lot of live hitting in training camp.
Right.
And the regulars don't get a lot of preseason action. So
right. Pitchers are always ahead of the hitters in a major league season, blah, blah, blah.
So you're going to see some missed tackles first couple weeks. Sure enough, they did. Okay. Now you get to week 3. 3 against the Giants. That's a very low number. 4 against Arizona. That's an incredibly low number because that was James Conner. 2 against Dallas. So they were absolutely peaking, right?
Yeah.
So now you get to October, and you're getting a little bit fatigued. You're building up a number of games. Guys are getting dinged up. 10 against Cleveland, 9 against Minnesota, 13 against the Bengals. And Shanahan described his team as fatigued and a little slow. And so then they get the bye. Okay. They get the week off of rest. They come back the next week. They only had missed 7 against Jacksonville, low number. 4 against Tampa, low number. 5 on Thanksgiving in Seattle, very low number. Then they missed 12 in Philly, despite the fact that they won the game. Then they missed 14 in the return trip against Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker in the game at Levi's. There were a lot of missed tackles in that game. Then they missed 16 against Arizona. Then they missed a bunch, I'm sure, against the Ravens. I don't have that number in front of me, but that's where the fatigue shows itself.
Here's the thing. I don't even think they missed a number of tackles against the Ravens. They just threw a lot of interceptions against the Ravens.
Yeah. No, because they were, and you know why they wouldn't miss a lot of tackles against the Ravens? Because they were really up for that game. You know, I mean, when they get up for a game and they're really getting their A game, they don't fall off tackles as much, but they expended a lot of energy to be in that situation. Now you've got 2 weeks to rest up. It's like double bye week. And I just think that what you're really going to see is you're going to see them just like tackling machines coming out of this thing. And that makes them, I mean, we know they're an offense that can score 30, and they sometimes will go for 40. And if they've got a defense that's rested and ready and at full tilt tackling wise, they're going to be nearly impossible to get out of there.
There are certain positions on the field where you can't really measure an impact statistically, and maybe chief among all of those positions is D tackle, D tackle doesn't come with glorified stats usually attached to it. One of the reasons why Hargrave really stood out for the Niners to go pursue is because of all of the sacks that he had as a D tackle in Philadelphia, and he's had a good number this year too. But Eric Armstead has never really been a sack artist, but he is someone who eats up blockers and makes everyone along that defensive line function so much better than they do without him. And getting Eric Armstead back for the playoffs, rested and healthy, I can't think of a bigger development to improve this defense than that.
Did you see the video that I retweeted? Everybody who doesn't follow me on Twitter, please go follow me on Twitter at SportsLarryK. I tweeted out an Eagles rant from this guy who's just, I mean, it's so foul. I can't even play it on here, right? It's over the top foul. And he's attacking Sirianni, but it just
the irate fan watching TV. Yeah, I've seen it.
Did you see it? I mean, just like, and what do they call? Just like, the guy's just losing his mind. He's insulting Sirianni's heritage. He's this guy was in the Super Bowl last year. Greg Escon says, I'm sure Larry regrets claiming Howie Roseman is the best GM in football earlier this year.
He's one of them.
No, there's no doubt. I wouldn't take that back at all. I mean, Howie Roseman is a phenomenal general manager. That's why the Eagles are so talented. I mean, the Eagles are a massive amount of talent. I mean, that they're hurting in a certain spot, and they lost their both coordinators. But Howie Roseman is an awesome general manager, and has done it both with trades, free agents, and the draft. But yeah, I mean, it's just. Right now, the 49ers have got it really rolling, and yesterday couldn't have been a whole lot better. And watching the guys like run off into the locker room after they saw that Arizona had pulled the upset was incredible to see. And now they get a couple weeks to just practice and kind of hone their craft and sleep in their own beds and rest up and bring it on. This is a great opportunity, and I do get the feeling that Shanahan has learned from past seasons, little things that he probably doesn't even discuss, from practice habits to ways to keep his team slightly fresher to ways to react to certain situations. I think that he's definitely gotten, the experience of having failed, and we'll see if they can get it done this year. This is, their standards, as we all know, this year are Super Bowl or bust. So we'll see if, right now they set themselves up, and now it's about, Dante Whitner said it great. He said, hey, now it's about, the dedication and how hard you're going to work and commit to, the the next 3-4 weeks to getting your goals accomplished. He said, we didn't, focus like we should have, talking about the Harbaugh team that lost to the Ravens. And he's like, we came 3 points shy of the Super Bowl. And you can tell it haunts him to this day. And it's like he's thought about New Orleans and that Super Bowl loss to the Ravens an awful lot, because that's as close as he ever got to a ring. And so you get this close, you want to take your best shot. And I'm sure Shanahan will verbally implore them to do exactly that.
Well, just like, it was absurd to say, well, Brock Purdy's not going to get any better. It's crazy to think that Kyle Shanahan's not going to get any better. Of course he's going to get better. He's a really smart guy. He knows exactly what he's doing. And, he might be stubborn in particular. And some people want to, again, nitpick more of this, less of that. But when you look at the totality of everything that this team has accomplished offensively, again, the 49ers, the first team in NFL history to have a running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end, each post 1,000 or more yards from scrimmage in a single season. It's really impressive. To get back to just finishing up just the facts, because this is really an amazing fact on Christian McCaffrey, who needs no more, flowers handed to him. I think everybody realizes that Christian McCaffrey is probably going to finish in the top 3 of MVP voting. And oh, by the way, if on Christmas Lamar became the clubhouse leader, he sunk the putt on the 18th hole to be your MVP against the Miami Dolphins. A 5-touchdown performance for Lamar. You can just give him that MVP trophy right now. It should be his. But
I think so.
McCaffrey played his 30th game with the 49ers in DC. That is including the postseason. 30 games as a member of the 49ers. In 30 games with this team, he scored 34 total touchdowns, which is the second most touchdowns scored by a player in their first 30 games with the team in NFL history. Only Gale Sayers has more. Gale Sayers.
The Kansas Comet.
Excuse
the
me.
Hall of Famer.
Gale Sayers, the greatest open field runner in NFL history. Like, that's what Barry Sanders will tell you about Gale Sayers. 36 touchdowns for Gale Sayers in his first 30 games. McCaffrey with 34 touchdowns in 30 games. That's Madden. That's pretend football. That doesn't happen. And it happened with him. He's so good. He is so special. And the fact that he gets 2 weeks off now is going to increase the violence. I mean, you saw him popping off. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is 7 yards down the field every time he touches the ball almost, unless he's like taking a 3-yard loss because a team just gobbled up that screen pass that was thrown to him. I mean, he is so good. He is the most fallenest forward running back in this league since Derrick Henry. And we're talking about two completely different body types. He's so special. And having said all that, Larry, it was really good to see Elijah Mitchell come in against the Commanders. For the first time the entire season, someone other than Christian McCaffrey was the 49ers' leading ball carrier in a game. Elijah Mitchell has not had the needle fall on him very often. It did on Sunday. And boy, I thought he really answered the bell. Larry, Elijah Mitchell hasn't looked that good, that effective since his rookie year. Battling injuries, it's been a tough comeback. But he looked crisp. I really liked what we saw out of Eli Mitchell.
Oh, he's good. He's good. I mean, it's so funny because I remember the day before the Niners traded for Christian McCaffrey. I'm interviewing one of their beat writers in the stadium after practice, and I said to him, man, I'm seeing some rumors about Christian McCaffrey
every week. Who is it? I mean, it's okay that person was wrong. We're allowed to be wrong in sports sometimes. Who was it? Who was it?
It was the great Cam Inman.
Oh, okay.
The great Cam Inman said, hey, they're not going to trade for Christian McCaffrey. I said, why? Because they don't need him. They've got Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson. And it wasn't a ridiculous answer at the time.
Look, it wasn't a need, it was a want. Right.
Well, I mean, also McCaffrey, it's like, I don't need a Lamborghini. I've got a Honda CRV.
No, that isn't that. You got a Corvette. You don't need a Lamborghini with a Corvette, so.
Okay. Well, maybe one's a Corvette, one's a Lamborghini. Either way, though, McCaffrey was really, really special. And, here it was, yesterday, he's already been used a ton. And he gets 18 touches and he gains 91 yards from scrimmage. But then he suffers the strained calf muscle. And, I was going to say that today's a significant day because Kyle will speak later today. And he says we'll find out more on Monday about his calf. Shanahan said after the game, we think he'll be all right. I don't know if he would have been able to go next week or not, but we'll have to find out more on Monday. He was moving around all right on the sideline, so hoping it's not too bad. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell, really productive running back in college, and he played at Louisiana, and he's got 4.3 speed, but you don't really see that when you watch him. The only downside to his game is he's got kind of a between the tackles big man's game, but it's the pick and the slide and the ability to find the opening and to, basically, run to daylight and hold on to the football and the balance. And, when he gets 2 steps going, I mean, he's got to get 2 steps going, but if he gets 2 steps going, man, he's really a hard guy to tackle for a loss. He's slithery. He falls forward. He's got great instincts. He doesn't fumble the football. And those are great traits right there. I mean, that's why he's earned the trust of Kyle Shanahan. I think in an ideal world, Shanahan would use Mitchell in the biggest games in this playoff and Super Bowl run as his second half closer. That's what he wants to use Mitchell as.
Look, there is no shame in not being as good as Christian McCaffrey. You can be a really, really good running back and still not be as good as Christian McCaffrey is. You know, it's the difference between were you good at it? Are you a Hall of Famer? Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Fame running back. He's going to Canton. It's going to happen. And if he has a Super Bowl, it's definitely going to happen. I mean, it is definitely going to happen, I think, anyway. So he is a wildly special player. The Niners knew that they were probably over-investing in a difference maker, but they were willing to make that choice because they thought this guy's enough of a difference maker to make this much of a difference. And folks, he has.
Well, it's
big and cashed in huge at the window with Christian McCaffrey.
And it's really ironic too, because it's because of picks like Elijah Mitchell that they were able to trade a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5 for Christian McCaffrey. They hit on so many of their after the draft and day 3 picks on this roster that they were able to trade four picks for one player because they have the depth because of guys like Elijah Mitchell. I mean, just kind of this game yesterday in a lot of ways was the John Lynch Bowl. You know, it's like it really was. He stole Trent Williams from Washington in a one-sided trade. He stole Chase Young and Randy Gregory, this year in very one-sided trades. He stole Christian McCaffrey in a very one-sided trade. And then he found guys like Elijah Mitchell and Diamador Lenore, on day 3 of the draft. So I mean, it was, and all those guys played significant roles yesterday in the return to DC for Trent and Chase.
I mean, it wasn't a particularly huge day for Chase. He hasn't made that much of a difference, really, I don't think, but he's a good player. I look at it this way: at the price point he could be commanding, they might walk away from him at the end of the year.
They might, but the price was right as far as what they traded to get him.
Oh, absolutely.
And Randy Gregory was just like basically just a gift from Denver to the Niners. I mean,
yep.
if I were another contender, I'd be like, wait a second, the Niners traded like the last pick of the 6th round for like the 3rd pick of the 7th round just to and got Randy Gregory, and you guys paid the salary. I'd almost want there to be some kind of Roger Goodell investigation there as to well, why did they take so little for a pass rusher like Randy Gregory?
We're talking about guys put in different situations, watching them excel, sink or swim. Cleveland Farrell's appointed himself very well this year for the Niners. He's been a big piece of what they've done too.
And he's benefited from those trades, Damon, because when Cleveland Farrell, he kind of runs out of gas. If you notice, Cleveland Farrell oftentimes is really, really good at the beginning of the game and the beginning of a half, because when he's rested, he can really dial up some pretty good quickness to go with his strong against the run capabilities. So, Cleve Farrell on this team, I mean, he was really strong yesterday.
He was. Gregis Khan's comment has been up too long. We don't need Howie Roseman being a part of the show for hours on end. Welcome to Wake Up with Damon and Larry. It's great to have you here. Hit like, hit subscribe. I see an awful lot of regulars in your chat, Larry, in our chat here as we simulcast on our channels. Again, thanks for all the support for these channels all season long. And I can tell you, we're just getting started. 2024 is going to be a huge year for both Larry and I here on YouTube. We're excited about being here. Larry's been incredibly helpful to me. Larry's audience has been incredibly receptive. We've shared an awful large portion of the audience throughout our careers, and to bring it all together here has been an awful lot of fun. The Just the Facts segment has gone on longer than Kevin Kruger is going to want to edit through it. So let me just wrap up with this here. Larry, the defense yesterday, 43 consecutive games now without allowing an individual 100-yard runner. It's the 2nd longest streak in the NFL in 23 seasons. Mooney Ward punctuated what has really been a career year from him. Biggest play of the game, I thought, for the 49ers is the as the Commanders were maybe about to make that game more interesting than any 49er fan wanted it. He had that big interception at the 5-yard line, and if he wasn't touched, he might have housed that thing. But he was Grace. He was down at the 5, and then the Niners went on and scored. Diamador Lenore had his 3rd interception of the season, but Mooney's interception on Sunday was his 5th of the season. That's a career high for him. You got to send that guy to the Pro Bowl. He's been fantastic. And one of the biggest stress points coming into this year during the 3-game losing streak, especially after the loss in Cleveland, was, Jake Moody. I don't know if I believe in Jake Moody. I don't know if I trust Jake Moody. Well, Jake Moody had another perfect day kicking on Sunday. And beyond that, Larry, his 58 straight points after touchdown are now the most by a rookie kicker in NFL history. Considering where the point after touchdown is kicked from now, that's officially an impressive statistic, because that statistic is, being measured against a whole bunch of rookie kickers who were kicking, 15-yarders because the ball was spotted at the 3. So Jake Moody, one of the worry spots on this team, has become as dependable a rookie kicker as I think you could have hoped for. He's had an exemplary year beyond the missed kick in Cleveland. Where's the demerit against Jake Moody's rookie season? He's been spectacular.
Well, the Niners think they've got their kicker for the next decade, and they probably do. And good for them. The one thing the Niners were not a great special teams unit a couple years ago under Richard Hightower, and they brought in Brian Schneider from Seattle, who's a very respected veteran special teams coach. They invested money in guys like George Odom and Ray McLeod in free agency. They invested draft picks and draft capital in a 3rd in the form of Jake Moody, a 4th in the form of Mitch Wishnowsky. They've got nice special teams right now. They got a good long snapper. They got excellent young kicker. They got an excellent young punter. They're making plays on special teams. Womack.
I wish the return
fantastic
game,
on special teams.
I wish the return game were a bit better. And, Ronnie Bell had a decent game. I think Sunday he didn't make any special team mistakes. But I still.
That's Ayuk's job come playoff time, I think.
Right. I think you're right too. I hope it is. Because there can't be any Kyle Williams memories and flashbacks come postseason time. That just cannot happen. Beyond everything else, this is the 10th time in franchise history that the 49ers have clinched the 1 seed. Only the 10th time in franchise history, the 49ers have won 10 regular season games against NFC opponents in consecutive seasons for the first time since 97-98. I mean, Larry, I was in college, in 1995. So we're talking about, almost 30 years ago, right? I mean, so the 49ers, again, while people have been bitching and moaning and telling you what doesn't work about this team, they've had an incredible amount of sustained success under Kyle Shanahan. They went 7-2 on the road this season and 4-0 against the NFC East. So they've been really good for a really long time. Have there been some blips and bumps in the road? Look around football. Who's got a smooth paths? Who's, outside of Kansas City? And I really do think that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs so distorted expectations of football teams at the zenith of their dynasty. Everyone started thinking that that's the new normal. Like some people in the NBA started watching the Warriors during their dynasty. And Steve Kerr would come on my show every single week and say, Damon, this isn't the real NBA. What is happening, this isn't real. This is imagination land, and we're just living in it right now. But this is not the real NBA. The real NFL means you are going to get punched in the teeth at least 2-3 times a year. And fans overreact to those teeth punchings. You should expect it. It's going to happen. There's no such thing as going undefeated. I don't think, Larry, in our lifetimes, we're never going to see an undefeated football team in a 17-game regular season schedule. It's not going to happen. This league is built to destroy success, to make it disintegrate right when you think you've got it. And the very truth is even a 4-game losing streak, like if you go a month without a loss, you just had a monster fucking month. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. Putting 3 wins together at any point in time in this league is hard to do. And the Niners have had multiple 5-game winning streaks in this season. So they're good. They're really good. They're really well built. They're really well maintained. And for those who have been insisting the opposite of that for years now, they're looking a little foolish with a 1 seed attached to the Niners before the regular season even ends. So an unbelievable season, an unbelievable couple of years. And, you know, I already know, I can hear it. I can feel it in the comments. It hasn't, I don't think I've seen it yet, but I can feel it coming. Somebody is about to say, well, you know, the Niners are 0-38 when they're down 8 points in the fourth quarter. And Kyle Shanahan is 0-38 when down 8 points in the fourth quarter. And look, that's not great, but it's very normal. It's very normal. I don't know if you saw this tweet from Mike Sando, but Larry, I took a screenshot of it and I saved it for this show because I wanted to bring it up. And I was actually at a New Year's Eve party. Some drunk guy comes up to me and argues with me for a little while, and I busted this out because the first thing he said was, 0-38 when down 8 points. Kyle still can't do it. He's never won the big one. I mean, this guy's got the 3rd most playoff wins in franchise history already, but he's never won a big one. Can't win a big game. Playoff games apparently are not big games unless it's the Super Bowl, but okay. 0-38, down 8 or more in the fourth quarter since Kyle Shanahan has become head coach. Okay, so we're going back 7 years of data points. This is from Mike Sando. All teams in football, the entire NFL, when down 8 or more points in the fourth quarter, is 98, 1,337, and 4. So all teams in the NFL where Kyle has a 0% of winning because he's 0-38. All teams in the NFL are 7%. You're down 8 points in the fourth quarter. There is a 93% chance you lose that game. Again, the entire league sucks when down 8 points in the fourth quarter.
Here's the Shanahan stat that I think is the most pertinent stat. The 2 years prior to Shanahan being here, the Niners were combined 7-25. I would shut the fuck up about Shanahan.
Yeah.
They're 7-25.
Right.
Guess what they are this year? 12-4. Guess what they were last year? 13-4. Guess what they were in 2021? 10-7. Guess what they were in 2019? 13-3. I mean, he's been pretty good.
He turned around an entire roster in 2 years and rebuilt it on the fly, and he didn't even have the quarterback he really wanted or envisioned until this very year. And look at the success that they've had. But again, just to go back to Mike Sando again and the 0-38, all teams in football are winning at a 7% clip when down 8 points in the fourth quarter. Kansas City has the best winning percentage when down 8 in the fourth quarter, and that winning percentage is 300. They're 6-14 down 8 in the fourth quarter. Green Bay would be next at 7-34. That is a 171 winning percentage. Seattle, in the same time, down 8 points in the fourth quarter, is Seattle's 1-38. Carolina is 1-58. Indianapolis is 1-36-1. Baltimore is 2-22. Dallas is 2-37. New England with Bill Belichick, the greatest head coach in NFL history. Bill Belichick, when he's down 8 points in the fourth quarter in the last 7 years, is 3-35.
So you're saying if you're down 8 in the fourth quarter, you typically lose?
Yes. You have a 93% chance of losing that game. So Mike Sando goes on to say, so no one really wins under this scenario. So to say that Kyle Shanahan is the only guy in football who can't win under this scenario is absurd.
Well, just remember this. Remember this. Anytime somebody quotes you a stat, make them quote you where it ranks in the league. Because the stat doesn't have relevance until you can tell me where it ranks.
Right. Measure it against something else.
Exactly. Tell me where it ranks in the league. Tell me where if you want to rip Kyle Shanahan, great. Tell me where he ranks among his peers.
Right.
If you want to fire Kyle Shanahan, that's fine too. Tell me who you're going to replace him with. I mean, it's like, that's the thing. We can't, with the people, and you know the way it is. We do YouTube channels, and people accuse guys like us of doing shows for clicks and this and that. You're only doing it for clicks on your YouTube channel. Okay, that's fine. But if you talk about Jake Brendel and Spencer Burford, you get 17 people in the room. If you talk about the quarterback, you get more. And if you talk about the head coach, you get more. And so I think I'm not the only person who's noticed this. Other people have as well. And so they parked their car at the corner of Trey Lance Boulevard and Brock Purdy's Not Good Enough Avenue. And when that turned out to be, a huge, gigantic, colossal fuck up, then it was like, okay, wait a second. We'll pivot to Shanahan.
He can't coach.
We'll kick Shanahan in the nuts every single live stream, and that will fill up and so this is what's going on. You've got people who take shots at Brock, but now Brock's almost unassailable. He's literally the greatest investment in their recent past. The last pick in the draft, and he's an MVP candidate. So now it's like, okay, what's going to fuel the growth of my channel? I got to kick Shanahan in the nuts 17 times this week. Otherwise, I'll be rendered talking about Kevin Givens, and nobody will be clicking. You know what I mean? So it becomes a huge, let's park on the corner of Shanahan sucks, and that's a fallacy. So it's the way of the world. It's the way of the internet. I understand it. Shanahan hasn't done it yet. We get it. But he's a relatively young man in the game. He's only been the Niners. He's only been a head coach since 2017. It's not like this guy was like a 15-year head coach somewhere else. He's only been a head coach for a short amount of time. Yes, he's aged in this job, but he's still a relatively young man in the game. There's an awful lot of people in Philly that had decided that Andy Reid sucked and that he couldn't climb to the top of the mountain. In reality, it takes a great head coach and quarterback combination. And then you got to have talent around that player, but it really starts there. You start with your head coach and your quarterback. He didn't quite have the cast. He lost to some good Brady teams, and he lost once in the Super Bowl. Now he's got Brock Purdy and a really good roster and, a great chance, and we'll see. I mean, if 10 years from now, Kyle Shanahan is still walking around with no rings, then maybe people are onto something. But until then, I think you got to let it play out. If they go to the NFC Championship game, which, they're one win away from, they will have been there 4 times in the last 5 years. So everybody needs to pump the fucking brakes.
Right.
And see this guy for what he is.
The Eagles said, we got to get rid of Andy Reid when he was in 4 consecutive NFC title games or whatever it was. And they only went to 1 Super Bowl, and then Donovan McNabb threw up in the 4th quarter and blah, blah, blah. Andy Reid is a really good coach, and you should be able to recognize that until you see the picture of him holding a Lombardi trophy. Now, obviously that's the zenith of coaching. That's what everyone is gunning for. But if you need to see someone holding a Lombardi trophy before you can even acknowledge they're good at this, what you're admitting to the entire world is you don't even know what you're looking at. You are unqualified to be someone discussing football with any gravitas or authority, or you shouldn't even have an audience if your entire modus operandi has been the 49ers during the Kyle Shanahan have been poorly run and incompetently coached. If that's where you live, good luck, because Super Bowl this year will officially have burnt your credibility to the ground forever and ever and ever. And you can never be taken seriously again. I mean, you're literally the boy who cried wolf. You're the boy who cried training camp interception. We know who we're talking about.
How about the people who decided that Brock Purdy didn't have an arm and was Captain Checkdown? I mean, if Brock Purdy's anything, we wish he was a little bit more of Captain Checkdown.
Right.
He's a riverboat gambler. He's Brett Favre.
Yeah. Tell me you might spend more time in the home insurance policy than you do covering sports, if that's your, entire talking point. He only throws underneath the sticks. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't go downfield. Says what? Show me this. Show me the data. And then it's like, hey, look, people, don't judge a book by its cover. You're doing that exact same thing. You're basically looking at this guy going, he's not 6'4", he's not 240. He must not drive it down the field. Instead of actually, I don't know, rolling back the ISU tape and watching a few games. If you love football so damn much that you're going to have a YouTube channel, maybe, I don't know, watch a game.
There you go.
Take in a game. Why not?
Yeah. It's again, when you
instead this guy's going to do nothing more than check it down. Or I love this one.
When you don't know what
I think the guy's the guy. I just don't think he's the guy long term.
Right.
What does that even mean? So you're winning in the present, but like you don't really believe that. You think it's like lucky, but you don't want to say it's lucky because that sounds stupid. So then it's like, I think it's lucky. So I'll just say, I think he's the guy, but I don't think he's the guy long term. It's like, it's like you go get some wine and put it in a sifter. I drink no wine before it's time.
Right. Well, look,
stop.
When you don't know what you're really talking about, complaining is effortless, and it allows you to fill time. And I know we want to keep politics and sports in two separate places, but sports have always been a microcosm of society. And if you ask me what is like the biggest problem society faces right now, it's that only the most extreme positions get the attention. Politically, that's true. Only the most extreme positions get the attention. Anyone trying to be reasonable walking down the middle of the street is ignored for the two lunatics shouting on either side of the street, as far away from each other as you can get.
That is kind of true.
And it's very much like that in sports. It's very much like that in sports. You can't come on and do well in ratings, I guess, if you want to have a reasoned adult conversation about what's actually happening. But if you have something that sounds like Brock Purdy sucks and Kyle Shanahan can't coach, oh, well, I guess we'll pay attention to that guy for a minute. I don't know. I will
say this, though. I will say this. And I don't know if you caught any of did you catch any of Toledo in the bowl game?
No, I did not catch much Toledo. Was that the was that the Barstool Bowl?
It was the Barstool Bowl.
Okay.
And I bring it up, Damon, because I watched it with my 14-year-old, and they had like one announcer, and then they had this guy, Big Cat.
Yeah, they had Big Cat and Portnoy in there, right?
And Portnoy was on there. And in some ways, it was great. In some ways, it was better than a regular college football. It was Wyoming, Toledo. Wyoming won 16-15 on the coach that's been there forever, Roll. I forget the guy's name is, for Wyoming. Won on a last-second field goal to end his career at age 60, and it was actually a very entertaining game.
Walk off into the sunset as a winner.
Yeah, and believe me, it was a fun game to watch too. It was a fun game to watch. Toledo has a ridiculous return guy named Jaquez Stewart, who's had an 80-yard run. The guy was just awesome. I mean, it was just like, you got to see this guy Jaquez Stewart.
All right, but you were saying something about the bowl and the broadcast. Is that where you're
going?
The
broadcast is incredible. Was incredible. It's like I could see that being kind of almost like it was the Arizona Bowl, the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl. And I could see that being kind of like, an alternative way to broadcast football. Like it's a college game, but these guys one guy was kind of calling the game. The other guys were just kind of chit chatting and just kind of talking trash. And, they were rooting. Toledo had a tip pass that went to a offensive lineman. He ran it in for a touchdown. They're like, hey, a fat guy touchdown. And they're
Right.
It was all irreverent and there was storytelling and it wasn't your typical broadcast. But like my 14-year-old dug it. They were one of those guys, I guess, is kind of a comedian. And it was entertaining. And it's like I'm sitting there watching that. I'm thinking, you know what? This might be the future of college football, play-by-play in some ways, is that, not so buttoned down. And, that's Harrison Whaley, who's a redshirt sophomore out of Tucson. And now it's a little bit more like, look at that fat guy that just scored. And, and let's interview some fans and let's tell stories and let's talk over each other. And let's, just have it be like a barroom type discussion. It was really, I don't know if anybody else caught that, but it was really interesting considering it stood out among all the different broadcasts that I've heard during this bowl season. And it was fun. It was a fun, cool atmosphere. I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm hardcore football, but you know what? I love it. It's all about sitting back with your buddies, having some fun and chatting it up. I think guys like you and I could do great stuff. If we're just on like opposite the game while the game's going on and just kind of chit-chatting about, hey, just what we're watching without being super, nobody's the true play-by-play guy. Nobody's the true color analyst. It's just kind of dudes.
I don't want that in my Rose Bowl. I don't want that in a Sugar Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that in the Super Bowl, but in the nobody's watching this Toledo, Wyoming, who gives a fuck bowl. Fine.
Or like an NFL preseason game would be kind of cool. If you're just kind of chopping it up, you're just.
Well, remember it was
interesting. I don't know if anybody caught it, but if you saw it and you're in the chat, I'd love to hear what you thought of the Barstool broadcast of Toledo, Wyoming. Because
Larry, do you remember on Monday Night Football when they brought Dennis Miller in?
Miller
and people were the first, like, let's try to do that.
People lost their mind with that, and they wanted something a little bit more. But like, it's kind of a cross between play-by-play and the Manning cast. The Manning cast is like literally just guys hosting a talk show with the game in the background.
Right. Who happen to be Hall of Fame quarterbacks and brothers.
Right. This was more like kind of play-by-play, but with guys kind of chopping it up in a bar. And it was cool. I really enjoyed it. I sat there, and at the end of it, I was like, you know what? I liked it. Now, I'm somewhat of a Barstool fan. I'll buy some of their T-shirts, and I listen to some of their podcasts, and I kind of enjoy it. So, and I don't need the super button down, let's make every sophomore in high school sound important broadcast. But I don't know. I'd be interested. I know you're kind of a fan of the medium of broadcast. I'd be interested to see if you saw, catch 20 minutes of it on YouTube. Tell me what you think.
I will. I got to go back and rewatch the highlight package. The most amount of my biggest takeaway from bowl season so far is the Pop-Tart Bowl. Like I've been a little bit sick. I've been a little bit surrounded by screaming kids and my mom and my wife. Like I today is the first day that I'm really going to sit in front of the TV and watch some college football here in bowl season. It's the first time I'm going to really get a chance to do that.
Today is a great day for bowls, by the way.
Yeah.
Wisconsin LSU's already underway, and Wisconsin's up 7-0 on LSU. LSU's a big favorite there. But I love Tennessee today against Iowa. Iowa cannot score to save their life.
No.
Tennessee's only a 5-point favorite there. I like Bama against Michigan. I don't think you can give Nick Saban this kind of time Alabama's playing the best football, I think, in the country right now.
Well, and Jim
Michigan's a
Harbaugh
2-point
needs to
favorite.
slice a humble pie. He really does.
And I like UW tonight, man. I really do. I like the Huskies to knock off the Longhorns. I know there's a lot of people that believe that Texas is, is going to win that game, but I like the Huskies and Penix. Texas is 4-point favorites in that one, but I think that game's going to be a freaking shootout.
Look, it would be great if we got. Excuse me. Could you imagine, Larry? I mean, I just cannot stop coughing. It's been a fucking month.
Maybe you got the the COVID. Have you thought about that?
No. Believe me, we test. We try these things all the time. I got the Spilkus. Right. This is the new world we live in. Like, you get sick, you're sick for a month these days. It's a wonderful life. I mean, my kids' nicknames might as well be Petrie and Dish. They bring home.
I know. Kids are germs. They touch everything. They put their hands in their mouth.
We were at the Exploratorium, which, if you got a 4-year-old kid, go to the Exploratorium.
Exploratorium is awesome.
Hands-on everything. And I'm just thinking we are getting sick after this Exploratorium experience. We have touched everything. There's a million people in here touching it. You got little kids wiping their nose and touching the same dial that you're about to go touch all over. I mean, oh man. But anyway,
it's a gigantic germ fest. I'll tell you, another good one right now is the one in Golden Gate Park, the
California Academy of Sciences.
With the butterfly, butterfly, whatever the hell they're calling that thing. I mean, these butterflies are flying all around you and stuff. It's pretty wild. We spent
my 4-year-old, literally, he gets out of the tub, stark, naked, wet, and dripping, and he takes the towel that's supposed to be drying him off. He opens it up like he's a vampire, and he goes running around the house going, "I'm a butterfly! I'm a butterfly!" And, what do you do as a father? You're like, well, hopefully this is going to pass. He's only 4. If he's a 30-year-old man running around naked in San Francisco screaming, "I'm a butterfly."
It started back in 2023.
We knew it then. We knew it then. We know it now. But it's something else. Look, welcome to I'm a Butterfly with Damon and Larry. It's great to have you here this morning. Hit like and subscribe if you too are a naked, wet butterfly. It's great to be amongst ourselves here. Hit like and subscribe. Memberships available if you want to support what Larry and I are doing. I know both of our channels are offering memberships. It means an awful lot that you would come out and support us. But again, if you don't want to make any sort of, financial commitment or anything like that, that's cool. Just a like and a subscribe. Those are both free and easy to do. Even the subscribe might be a bridge too far. How about just a like? Make that algorithm favor us. And thank you very much for the incredible support, not just today, but really all season leading up to this. And Larry and I are going to be doing Monday and Friday shows for the rest of the year. I think even beyond football season, we got a little something here. There's an absolute demand for it, and there's certainly a need for it as we watch the quality of sports talk radio just evaporate in Northern California.
Are you saying that they don't have 1,200 people in the room right now over at the radio station?
Probably not. Now, does that include mine? Because I got about 300 sitting over here, so we got 1,500 people in the room. And that's probably dwarfing the combined audiences of both stations. And this is what happens when you can't afford real talent and they've got an option to go beat you just by plugging a MacBook Pro in. So that's who we are. That's who we are. And then you give Larry the sports sauna, it's over.
That's right.
You give Larry the sports sauna and a neon light. Look out, everybody.
Look at that. Kev got me that for Christmas. I'm loving that. The new studio.
So neon signs come in 2 flavors. That looks good or that looks tacky. That looks good. That's a really good looking neon sign. Kevin dropped some coin on that bad boy.
Yeah. I mean, it's the logo for the shirt, but yeah, I mean, that's that, I appreciate him. He's down in San Diego partying with his girlfriend and enjoying the new year and going to a concert down there.
Well, it's awesome. So Kevin, this is the young man you've raised, Larry, because he has been, provide. He slices and dices up Wake Up with Damon and Larry and sends it to both of us. And Larry and I post, the highlights of this show on our channels throughout the week. Kevin texted me and he's like, hey man, I'm going to be like, I'm partying with my girlfriend. It's New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Day. So I might not, you'll get more stuff on Tuesday or Wednesday this week. I wrote him back. I said, young man, go nuts. Have a great New Year's Eve. You've been working so hard for us all year long.
Oh, he's driven too. He's driven. Like he's saying to me, now, Dad, what is the plan for January 1st? I'm like, what is the plan? I'm going to sit around, drink beer, watch college football, and that's the plan. I'm going to stream with Damon in the morning. Other than that, I'm going to sit around and watch college football, and I'm making my famous crab cakes tonight. I was going to make them last night, but I decided I would hold off and make them today. The crab cakes will get made today. You know what a pound of crab costs, by the way, in Northern California at Lenardi's right now?
So they have yet to, I believe, officially drop the green flag on Dungeness crab season. So if look at it this way, if it was $25 a pound then, it's at least $35 a pound now, maybe, I'm guessing. 5 bones a pound. $50 a pound.
$50 a pound for crab. $50 a pound. But you know what? It's New Year's Day, and I got the crab cake recipe, and so I'm going to extend for $50. We got this one near. Mike J says Larry loves crab cakes. Yes, I do. I mean,
Larry loves crab cakes, and Larry loves Casino Krugerfeller.
Yeah.
Oyster Krugerfeller. No,
Oyster Rockefeller.
Oyster Rockefeller, which became the Oyster Krugerfeller down in Sam's Chowder House back in the. We're desperate to sell this post-game show to anyone. We'll have these guys drive to Half Moon Bay to do it.
We didn't even care. That's how good the food was.
Seriously.
I'm driving to Half Moon Bay to do a 49er post-game show, and I couldn't care less because you know what? The restaurant was so damn good.
Right.
There's a lot was so amazing.
At the end of that broadcast.
The Damon and I would dine after the shows there at Sam's Chowder House. And I mean, Oysters Rockefeller with the butter, the garlic, the spinach, the
breadcrumbs,
the oils, it's just freaking amazing. I could probably dust off 10 to 12 Oyster Rockefellers if I had to.
Easy. I take down 12. Here's the thing.
How many Oyster Rockefellers could we take down?
Should we have a contest? Should we just, how about this?
I don't know. It's one of those things that if you get one bad oyster, you've got like intestines cramps for days. So you don't want to overdo it. It's every oyster is kind of a risk. But
feats of strength and tests of courage in an oyster eating contest.
Well, and Sam's is a premier place. And it's very, very rare that you get a bad oyster at Sam's. But man, it's not the kind of thing that you want to be eating in mass. It's like it's really rolling the dice. But I would say easily I could polish off. I think they came 6 to a order, and I think I would order maybe 2 orders.
We'd get 2 up there. We'd get 2 up, and I'd had 3, and you'd eat 9.
Yeah,
but
an amazing Oysters Rockefeller.
Yeah, I would order the lobster roll with extra lobster on the side, and they would bring it. It was ridiculous.
And the lobster roll was just ridiculously fat, too, that you ordered. It was just heaving with lobster, just tons of lobster. It wasn't lobster tail, but it's lobster. Lobster tail is the richest food I think I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Oh, yeah. Did you know it used to be a peasant food? Like, the lobster was not anything but poor people ate lobster. It was the shellfish they would throw the poor people back in the day, and then someone wealthy finally ate it and was like, what are we doing giving this away for free? What are we well, this is a delicacy. What are we doing?
What the heck? Amendment, time for an amendment.
Who is the first person to look at a lobster and go, I'm going to try to eat that thing? Whoever that person was, what a bold choice you made, and thank God you made it. By the way, talking about crab cakes and your specialty and the $50 a pound, one of the funniest guys I have in my community, True Blue Forever, who's in here chatting with everyone today, says, Larry, you're shopping in the wrong place. You can get tenderloin crabs for about $10. Okay, so on that note,
yes,
I think it's time to go to some comments, Larry. What do you got?
All right, we got a bunch here. We got 15 or so super chats. So
focus
let's get
back
them up
in.
here.
Give us our tight shot again. I love seeing your sign, but
all right.
Let's get all. Yeah. Ooh, there's a lot of Damon and Larry all of a sudden.
There's what's that? Is that a Willie Mays bobble? What is that bobble in the back there? Off the other side.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's a Willie Mays bobblehead. Willie Mays bobblehead. Battle of the Bay snow globe. Dios de la Muerte head up against Draymond Green's bobblehead, who's just out of camera shot right there. We got a Klay Thompson bobblehead. We got the sponsored by JJ Raider ganja jar, who at Plus Mania 2 gave me about 1.5 pounds of weed just because he likes the show very much. That's the ultimate super chat right there. So the ganja jar became the official JJ Raider ganja jar. So
can you see into the ganja jar or no?
Well, I got to be honest with you. With 2 kids around here, the ganja jar is a touch performative. We keep it in you know, you don't leave your gun and your bullets around the kids, Larry. So the ganja is somewhere else.
Good to know. It's false advertising is what it is. All right. Alien D Gin. Doesn't say, it says Alien, right? Not Alan.
I think it's Alien, yes.
Why don't the Niners run more out routes? It says CS likely to result in an interception if the ball is heading out of bounds versus the middle of the field. Oh, it's less likely.
Seems less likely. I think
seems less likely. Yeah. Look at that.
Again, that's I don't know why they don't run more out routes, but what you have are 2 wide receivers and a tight end going over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. What they're doing, that is I'm nitpicking question if there ever was one. Why don't they run more out routes? I don't know. Ask Kyle Shanahan. But their running seemed to be working very well.
Yeah, and they do run some out routes, but Jennings is their best out route runner, right? He's the guy who seems like, he's made some big catches on out routes. Ayuk and Debo, those guys like to run across the middle, and they run fearlessly across the middle. Rakib Jamani says, great show, gentlemen. Larry, I love the new studio. Thank you, Rakib. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody, by the way. January 1st, 2024. How about that? The Shaw in the house drops this. He says, I wanted to start this year right with a super chat.
Thank you very much, Shaw.
Very cool. In fact, you know what I caught yesterday for the first time? There is a new thing in YouTube where people can donate to our videos or live streams, like in the comments after the show.
Yes. Somebody
yesterday dropped a 50 spot on me from a stream that I did yesterday. It's amazing. Out of nowhere. Just wasn't even in the stream. Just like, hey, I'm watching this. I appreciate you. Boom. Here. Another area where YouTube's better than radio. Nobody ever gave us anything on radio. Jason Lutz said, biggest player surprises this year, biggest flop. You talking Niners? I would say
talking Niners.
Yeah, I would say. Biggest surprises, biggest flop. Well, I would say biggest.
It's you got to think about it for a minute, and to say flop, it sounds like you're talking about someone as if they're a failure or they're a disappointment. I mean, maybe Isaiah Oliver is the guy who fits the flop question.
Don't say that to Steve Wilkes, man. Steve Wilkes would fight you over that. I mean, he loves the guy.
How about this? Again, hard thing to put on a guy who I like very much. Talanoa Hufanga was not having a great sophomore year before he got injured. Maybe he would fit that definition.
I can't go flop.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I don't like the word, but I'm trying to figure out who was the guy who you had the high, who did not meet your expectation, I guess is a better way to say it than flop, because
I
flop,
would say, and this is a tough one for me because I love this guy. It's like my favorite Niner. And I love talking to him. I was just talking to him the other day, and I really do believe in him. But and if I saw him, I would tell him. And when I do see him, I do tell him. I'm like, hey man, I believe in you, brother. Think there's gonna be better days. But Drake Jackson, you know,
yeah. But
been
again,
on the IR since week 10. He had the big week 1, then he kind of wasn't to be heard from after that.
yeah.
I would say that Drake Jackson to me has been somewhat of a disappointment.
Again, both the guys that I think we brought up have been, on IR too. So maybe that explains the disappointment of their season not really turning around, because they weren't out there to actually have the chance to turn it around. I would say maybe maybe Ray McCloud, just who's done really nothing for the Niners beyond an incredible downfield block earlier in the year. Like Ray had a great downfield block, and I remember us talking about his football IQ, and I do think he's got a big football IQ, but he hasn't made many big plays, and he's been a disappointment in the return game, and then he's been hurt. So maybe that's it. It's hard to say any rookie is a flop, so I'm going to leave Ronnie Bell out of the conversation because he didn't.
Well, he's a really good young player. I mean,
yeah, and
he's a 7th round pick.
Yeah, he's not bad. In terms of biggest surprise,
I'm going to go. I got 2 that are my biggest surprises.
Can I give you my one that I think it fits?
No. Yes, you can.
Colton McKivitz.
He's been a positive surprise.
Absolutely. He was supposed to be the reason why it wasn't going to, not as good as McGlinchey. That is a regression. It's not even a lateral move. He is more than well appointed for his entire year over there at right tackle. I think he's done a good job. Has he been great? Is he going to the Pro Bowl? No and no. But he's been good.
Yeah, so, I like that. I like that one. I would go with kind of the same vein, guys who are young veterans that people had been like, they're not going to be any good. And they were pretty good. Colton would definitely be the guy on offense. On defense, I'm going to go Javon Kinlaw and Ambry Thomas. I think a lot of people thought that both those guys were just like non-factors and that Javon wasn't going to be on the team. Ambry was a bust, blah, 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 blah. And now you look up and you're like, Javon's had a decent year and is probably going to get a decent contract. And Ambry has been, I think, the key to the turnaround. I mean, they took Oliver off the field. They put Ambry on the field. They moved Lenore inside. Their coverage got tighter. I would say Kinlaw and Ambry Thomas on defense for sure, and McKivitz on offense.
Yeah, and I think that, Ambry Thomas might be another year away from being, really, Pro Bowl caliber level corner. I mean, he has learned an awful lot. He's made a big leap from the first time we've seen him to the player he is now. If he continues to take that step forward, sky's the limit for him. He's a real player, and he's got the right body for it. So,
and I'll go one more on defense. I said the disappointing guy was Drake because I was expecting, really good things after week 1. On offense, it's definitely Cam Latu. Cam Latu couldn't catch a cold this summer. He's got decent athleticism and size and potential, but I mean, if you're just looking at where they drafted him and who was on the board and what he's done so far and how he's looked, I would say Cam Latu, unless he's a world beater in year 2. I mean, he has had a very, very disappointing first year in the NFL.
Now, look, the discerning fan is watching us right now, but I even wonder what percentage of people watching us right now even know who he is.
Yeah, no, I know. You'd have to have seen him in camp, right? So there you go. Jason Lutz, though, thank you for that one. We got this one from Sherpagny. Larry thinks cutting Trey Lance was a no-brainer.
Well, at one point it did become that, right?
Cutting Trey Lance was a no-brainer. I wouldn't have cut him.
They didn't cut him. They traded him. And it is the smart financial planner who cuts losses when they see no more room for growth or development. Like the best time to say goodbye to a bad investment is today. No matter how much it hurts, the best time to move on from the wrong choice is today. The worst time would be tomorrow. The even worse time than that would be a week from now. Like when you know you got a tough decision to make, you just got to make it sometimes. And the Niners had a very, very tough choice to make there.
Well, I mean,
maybe it really wasn't that tough of a choice.
No, it's not that you're not paying your third string quarterback $9 million. He was their third string quarterback. They had the going rate for a third string quarterback is $1 million. So when they signed Brandon Allen to a $1 million a year contract, that should have been an indication that he was going to be the third string quarterback. They were never going to have a $9 million third string quarterback. So once Trey became the third string quarterback in their eyes, he was leaving. And that's what happened. I like Trey Lance, and I think Trey Lance is still going to be a player someday. And I've said that over and over again. 69er says, Larry, I won my fantasy league. Look at you.
Get a golf clap on that.
Look at you.
Jillian was in.
I've never won the fantasy league.
Jillian was in her title game, but got smoked yesterday because she was going against James Conner. So,
I've only won the league one time. I've been playing a long time. The Dark Willow says, imagine Purdy's stats if we didn't blow teams out. Yeah. Imagine what Brock Purdy's stats would have looked like if he wasn't 32nd in the NFL in fourth quarter pass attempts. How about that? Think about that one. Sean O'Leary dropping a 20. Look at Sean O'Leary.
Cha-ching. Thank you, Sean.
Sean O'Leary, go do your, Happy New Year to your bad self. He says, I like Shanahan's bounce back game plan. More balanced run pass mix. Went back to the Jimmy G playbook in the first half to get Brock some easy completions and confidence, then took his shots deep in the second half.
And you also, I agree. I know it was an unmemorable opening drive because they settled with a field goal. And by the way, they're 69 points scored on opening possessions, number one in the NFL this year. And you won't remember Sunday's opening possession because, again, it stalled with a field goal. But I really liked that opening drive, Larry. And you saw in a hey, we just got to win. Like it's a business trip out here. I don't care how we get it done today, but we got to get it done today. Lots of touches for McCaffrey right off the rip. Screwing around. Here's who we are. This is our best player. We're feeding him. And then on the very next drive, that's when they started feeding Debo, get him his touches. And it's Shanahan was in we ain't fucking around mode right from the jump. And that's good.
Well, and it was very, very high percentage passes and runs. This is what the drive was. CMC runs 9 yards. CMC runs 2 yards. CMC on 1st and 10 runs 1 yard. 2nd and 9, Purdy to Ayuk for 6 yards on a pass. 3rd and 3, Purdy scrambled for the first down from the 44 to the 47. 1st and 10, Purdy to Kittle short for 7 yards. 2nd and 3, CMC runs for 6 yards. 1st and 10, Purdy to Juszczyk, incomplete, penalty on Washington for Castro Fields. And then 1st and 10 from the 29, Purdy to CMC for 10 yards. 1st and 10 from the 19, CMC 4-yard run. 2nd and 6 from the 15, Purdy to CMC on the screen pass that was -5.
Right.
That was a -5 yards. 3rd and 11, Purdy threw incomplete. 4th and 11, here comes Jake Moody. Purdy goes, 12-play drive, 55 yards, 6 minutes, 54 seconds. Moody, by the way, goes 14 for 14 on field goals inside of 40 with that one. 38 yards, 3-0 Niners. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was a conservative game plan early. It was a low-risk game plan. But you know what? Think of it this way. The Niners under Shanahan going forward, Damon, and I really think that this was a great example. This should be their recipe at the beginning of games. Come out super conservative, but move the ball down the field.
Right.
If you can move the ball down the field conservatively, then you get a multiple score lead. Now you can pressure the quarterback, take chances. I love the way the Niners look when they've got a team backed up inside their 5, or they look when they've got a 10 to 12 point lead. It's like the defense is swarming, the DBs, Greenlaw and Warner are firing up with all kinds of physicality. The DBs are looming, selling out for picks. They get hyper aggressive and they get really, really, they get overpowering feeling defensively when they have a lead. So it's like, get that lead by being as conservative as you possibly can. Don't turn it over, and then start taking risks when you have a little bit of a lead to play with. I think that's their recipe going forward. I think if they had done that against Baltimore and gotten a lead and, that kind of thing, and kept the ball out of the air, I think eventually Baltimore is like going to be a hard team. Baltimore's going to struggle if they don't lead. They're a bully team.
Right. They're a front runner as well. And the Niners are a front runner.
Niners are a front runner, but so that's why that first quarter play calling and what you call and how you call the game and how much risk you take is huge for the Niners.
So after that first drive stalls with the field goal, the second drive, it's more CMC right off the rip. And then you get Debo, his very first touch of the day on the successful run around the left side.
End around, 10-yard end around.
You got third
which
and long.
I want to see like 4 times a game if I could.
You got 3rd and long at the Washington 45. And Purdy finds Ayuk for a big game. That was a 17-yarder that moved the chains.
Which was an incredible, sorry to interrupt, but that was an incredible play by CMC because he picked up the blitz. Washington brought the blitz on 3rd and 9. CMC stonewalled the blitzer in the hole, and Purdy delivered a strike to Ayuk in his favorite window. And that was an outside pass.
Another first down after that. Then Debo makes a catch, his first catch on his first target of the game. So now you're goal to go. You get McCaffrey getting gobbled up by Jonathan Allen on first down. On second down was that pop pass to Debo. And that was, one of the easiest touchdowns of the season. I mean, Debo jogged that thing to the corner, and it's 10-0 Niners after the second.
And Purdy's 8 of 9 at that point.
Yeah, 8 of 9 for 57 yards and just starting to really, really get comfortable in a game. And we all know how dangerous he is when he's comfortable in a football game. And I thought he did a great job avoiding the up the middle pressure that Washington absolutely put on him throughout the day. Again, it was, we know the weakness of that Niners offensive line. Washington tried to exploit it, but they didn't really get away with exploiting it. And you know who felt like he was more involved than he normally is in the passing offense was Kyle Juszczyk yesterday. Kyle Juszczyk was targeted, I think, a couple of times, and he had that one ball that went off of his tipped fingers. That would have been a spectacular catch. It would have been one of his all-time highlight reel catches had he made it. But that play was it didn't matter because the Niners had Washington had a defensive holding, so it moved the chains anyways, even though Juszczyk didn't catch it. But it was good to see Juszczyk really involved. I think that he's a weapon that they need to involve more.
Yeah, no, he's very sure-handed. He's very sure-handed. Ray's Vibe throws $1 in there. Thank you, Ray's Vibe. Appreciate you, brother. Harold McAllister says, Happy New Year, fellas. What will the bye help the most for the 49ers? I hope missed tackles. Harold, I think you hit it. You answered your own question there. Maybe we should give you the 5.
No, it's health and rest is the force multiplier for the 49ers. When they're healthy, when they're rested, that's when they turn into the team in football that nobody wants to play. So it's good stuff.
They'll have more time to watch, with the breaks, they'll have more time to watch Damon and I's YouTube channels.
They're watching.
Ben Barch came up to me. I barely even know Ben Barch. He's like, what's going on, Krug? Like, hey, man, what's up?
What's up, man?
What's going on? Big fan of the channel. So there you go. Ben Barch, ladies and gentlemen. Harold McAllister. Larry answered my super chat already. LOL. You're lazy.
You're
lazy, boy. I love you, boy, but you're fucking lazy. The great Bill Urbanek. That was his opening line to me virtually every morning in training camp with the Gold Miners. I love you, boy, but you're fucking lazy.
Yeah, you got here 4:45 a.m.
You got here at 7 and you think you're leaving at 7? I got here at 4 and I'm going to leave at 2. Like, yeah, but your family's away from you right now, and your best friend is Johnny Walker Black.
Right. And oh, by the way, you're going to die young. And he did.
Guy puts hot sauce on his breakfast cereal. He's no longer with us, sadly, but he was a good man. Here we go. Damon, Larry, who do you got in the college football playoff?
I'm with you, Larry. Give me Alabama, Washington when it's all said and done.
I think the irony of this is going to be that Washington, I know people don't believe me, but I think Washington's going to win the whole damn thing. Why? Because
champions.
Here's why. Michigan's better than Bama, but Bama, you give, Bama's hot right now. Milrose playing great, and you give Saban this much time, and he's going to have his team ready to roll. So I like Bama, but that's when they have that much time. They're not going to have a ton of time for the Huskies. And then the Huskies I think they're really well coached. I'm a big Penix fan. The Huskies to me have looked good all year. I think the Huskies are going to beat Texas. And then I think Washington, the Pac-12, in the final year of the Pac-12, is going to win the playoff legitimately. And there's going to be all this, what? The Pac-12 is going out with a bang, but with Washington winning the whole thing.
I really think if you got all the powers that be in the room that voted for all the change and made all the change happen and the Pac-12 vanish, I think if we could get everybody in the room and say, you want to hit the reset button on all this shit, they'd do it. But they're too
just
far down.
Back, get rid of the portal and get rid of all that.
No. The portal can exist, but
it's created chaos in college football, though,
and it's ruined bowl season. I mean, half the reason why I'm not watching bowl games is because the teams aren't even The teams aren't even interested in playing in the bowl game. So I'm not going to really.
I know. Seriously, you're watching all these games, and it's like the games without the stars. I mean, right. Florida State didn't even show at all in that Georgia game. I mean, they didn't even have anybody going in that game. I tuned in to watch Miami because Miami's got James Williams and this awesome other safety they have, and neither of those guys were going. I mean, I couldn't watch the Miami safeties in the Rutgers game. The Rutgers running back, though, by the way, Kyle Monangai, 25 carries, 163 yards and a touchdown.
There you go. For the big Rutgers audiences that's in here.
For the Rutgers fans out there.
The Rutgers crowd, all 7 of you. No, I really think that had Deion Sanders gotten to Colorado a year before he did, the Pac-12 is still alive. Because the Pac-12 was blown up based on the fact it couldn't command ratings. Then Colorado turned into one of the highest rated teams in all of sports all year long, even during their losing streak. Colorado,
but, even though they couldn't attract ratings, Damon, the Pac-12 blew it when Larry Scott or Kliavkoff turned down ESPN.
Yeah.
I mean, ESPN was there willing to give them X, and they wanted X times 2, and instead they got their conference blown up.
Greed and bad decisions, and then the Big 12 coming in and saying, hey, we'll take that deal if they won't. Just totally, they in a game of musical chairs, they had nowhere to sit.
Yeah. By the way, I love college football. I don't really have a team that I'm like that super. I mean, I'm an A&M fan, but I really don't care. I watch college football more for the draft implications.
Right. I love college football, and I went to Indiana, which means I don't even really have a team. But
right. But my point is this: it's just that I watch all of this college football, and the most ridiculous thing is that Georgia has the best players. They've been atop the recruiting deal for years. If they're not 1, they're 2. If they're not 2, they're 3. Georgia has the best talent. There's no doubt in my mind. They got stars everywhere.
Champions.
They just won 63-3 over Florida State, partially because Florida State didn't show. But there was a lot of people saying Florida State should have been in the bowl game. No, the ACC is not the SEC. The SEC is semi-pro football. And the fact that Georgia lost to Bama and they're out with the best players with a 13-1 record playing in the best conference, and Texas is in, and they lost to the Oklahoma Sooners.
But they beat Alabama.
Yeah, they beat Alabama, but Oklahoma lost to Arizona in the bowl game. I mean, Arizona, I'm nothing against Arizona. They're on the uptick, but come on. I mean, what's a worse loss? Georgia in a neutral site to Bama by, barely anything in the SEC championship game, or Oklahoma beating, Texas in the Red River shootout. To me, it's ridiculous that you're going to have a 4-team playoff. The Georgia Bowl and not have Georgia. Georgia would be favored against every one of the remaining 3 teams that will play today in the playoff. It's garbage. I mean, you've got the best team in the best conference, and they don't even make it to the playoff. I mean, I know next year they'll have the 12-team playoff and everything will be solved, but Georgia had the best players. They played in the best conference, and they had a 13-1 record. They should have been in the freaking playoffs, and Texas should not have been.
What sucks are all the half measures and baby steps they have to take to get to the 12-team playoff. I mean, that should have been decided. Forget about years. That should have been decades ago. I mean, the right way to do this has been in front of everyone for all these years. I remember the famous Mike Leach, when he was still at Washington State press conference, where he basically said, well, how would we go about actually crowning a champion? All we'd really need to do is see what Division III does and just follow that model where they take teams and they actually play each other to decide on the field who the champion is going to be. Like they have a robust, long playoffs that take a whole bunch of teams and whittle them down to their very best. Like, why don't we do that? So
because then the Fiesta Bowl wouldn't have couldn't basically give out a bunch of free trips, and it's a big money grab. It's a big gravy train. It's it's the good old boys running college football, just loving getting schmoozed by these bowl junkets.
Like whoever is the governor of the Fiesta Bowl, like that guy made $700,000 this year, and he puts on one football game a year. You know what I mean?
And if you go, then like these bowl places, I mean, I've met some of these people when I've been doing the Stanford pregame show down on the farm. It's like, I'm Bob Jones. Here's my card. Here's my offices in San Diego. What do? I run the blankety blank bowl. Okay, it's a 1 day a year thing. What do you do the rest of the year? It's like, I run the blankety blank bowl.
Yeah, no, it's a full-time job. How?
It's like,
how?
I have an office in San Diego, and I coordinate the Insight.com bowl. It's like, oh man, must be nice. Must be nice. All right, we got this one from Alien D Gin. I'm more mad at Harbaugh for choking in the Super Bowl than Kyle's fourth quarter mojo. Yeah, I mean, I am too. Well, after watching the Super Bowl against the Ravens again.
Larry, they got the 1 seed. No looking backwards.
I know, but I mean, watching that game, it's like, Harbaugh, what the hell are you doing? Benjamin, bit late. He says, bit late to the topic, but earlier when you said tackling machines come from a double bye week, not only that, but also forced fumbles like Warner did on the Cowboys, those punch fumbles. Yeah, just anything that's high energy on defense, you're going to be better off after the rest.
Everyone likes a peanut punch.
Yeah, Jesse, exactly. Peanut Tillman. Jesse F. Congrats on 15,000 and 32,000. Do you guys think Kyle Juszczyk wheel route was a message to the team who think they can blitz corners and crowd the middle? Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle is given everyone something to think about with every play that he runs. There's nothing happening willy-nilly, so yeah, there is a little, if you think you can corner blitz our guy, we could hit you with this.
And Lyle Bolliard with the final super says, what are the odds of teams going to the Super Bowl from having a first round bye versus everybody else? I don't know that number offhand, but
don't have those numbers in front of me. I'll tell you that there is more often than not a wild card team reaching the Super Bowl. Just it feels that way. I don't know if it is that way, but it feels that way in the last few years. being the 1 seed might not be the advantage that it used to be, but I think it will turn into advantage for the 49ers based on what we know about them. Eric Armstead's recovery, Christian McCaffrey's calf. They are, to get a 1 seed is a luxury. The 49ers worked really hard to afford this luxury. Not only do they have the luxury of the 1 seed, they have the luxury of being able to fold up the tent and then essentially not even worry about the Rams in week 18. Now look, who's ever out there playing for the Niners, they're going to be playing to win. There's no doubt. I mean, when you're in a football game, all the circumstances that preceded or come after that game vanish for every single player on that field. And all you are is in that game and trying to win that game. But what a luxury that they don't have to have a single essential player to a Super Bowl equation play in that game if they don't want them to. So
it's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful spot to be in. We are 2 hours into our live stream. Let's thank our sponsors: New York Style Italian Sausage, Pig and a Pickle, Marin Auto Glass, Underdog Fantasy, and Mojo Fantasy on my end. Damon, please thank your sponsors as only you can.
First and foremost, if you're looking for a delicious sandwich this New Year's Day, go to Ike's. Ike's has got the sandwich for you. If you're in the mood for a burger, let me tell you, my boys and Uncle Boys in the Inner Rich are a great place to stop. And if you have eaten so much that you now have arthritis in your knees because you're all fat and your joints don't work, Dr. Paul Hughes can take fat out of your body, inject it into your knees, and make your knees feel like they have entered a time machine. A orthopedic surgeon who doesn't want to do surgery on you. There is cellular replacement therapy. I've had it done to myself. Again, I would never endorse anything I wouldn't use myself. My body's 48 and my knee is 28. So thanks to Dr. Paul Hughes, you can go to orthopedicsurgeries.com. His offices are in San Mateo. He's really good at what he does. He has been the team doctor for the Cardinals, Rams, and Blues when he was in the Midwest and working in St. Louis. And now he's back out here in his home and doing some unbelievable work. So consider it if you have joint pain and all that stuff. Larry,
let me also thank one sponsor that I turned down as a sponsor for the Krug Show. There was a guy, a doctor in the East Bay, who contacted me and wanted to have a sponsorship on the show, and he wanted me to freeze my fat. There's like a new thing where you can freeze the fat around your gut or whatever, and it somehow falls off. I couldn't go there, Damon. I couldn't go to the freeze the fat. I had to say to him, you know what? Your money is not good here. I literally turned down a sponsor because he wanted to freeze the audience's fat, and he wanted to use me as the guinea pig, and I just couldn't do it. I had to say no.
Look, Doc, have you ever done this before, or am I seriously your guinea pig on this one?
He's done it before, and it's a legitimate process, but I couldn't go there. I just couldn't go there. It just makes me too much of a regular guy. I'm too regular of a guy to freeze my fat. I
don't know about you. I like my body fat at room temperature, Larry.
Exactly. Moral dilemma portion of the Damon and Larry extravaganza. Wake up with Damon and Larry. Of course, we're with you every Monday and every Friday during the football season. And we've got a ton of people watching right now, but we've got to go with this one. This is the moral dilemma question of the week. And for this, we decided to share the screen. And we've got a tweet from Barstool. And this is the owner of the Carolina Panthers here. We're going to see David Tepper, everybody. And here is the great owner. There he is. Kind of, I'm not sure.
He's not in the photo.
No, he's not in the photo.
He comes into the picture here.
He's off to the right of the guy with his hands in his pockets. Here we go. Here is, and he threw a drink or part of a drink, maybe some ice at a fan. Here we go. There you go. There you go.
There he is.
We got and this guy right here is like mad about it. Here we go. We'll get another look at it. You'll see the owner quickly. Then he threw the cup down on the table. That guy's like, hey, man, listen, I watched you guys win one game this year. You're going to throw ice at me?
Yeah. Billionaire or not, I'm going to whoop your ass. You throw a drink on me.
Look at that. Okay. One guy's about ready to jump into the booth.
I would have loved it if that fan actually had made it in there and just beat the ever living shit out of that guy.
It's a bad look.
Having said all that,
it's a bad look when you throw any liquid at the fans. Moral dilemma. Was David Tepper in the wrong here? Was he in the right? Maybe the fan had said something. Is there anything that fan could have said or the fans could have said?
Unless there was a straight up, like, I hope your wife dies of cancer, you fucker. Like, and but even then you just walk away because you're the billionaire. You got more to lose than the guy who's barking at you or yelling at you. But everyone says that David Tepper is a massive prick, just a total asshole.
He's just lucky. He's lucky
insinuating that throughout the entire year. He's like, man, working for this owner's an experience. And, and then he got fired.
Technically, what David Tepper did there was exactly what the fan did that incited the malice at the palace. I mean, right? I mean, basically, the fan who incited the malice at the palace threw an ice cube and some water at Ben Wallace and Stack Jack. They went into the...
When Ron Artest was laying on the scorer's table, he got hit in the head with a cup.
That's right. It was Ron Artest and Stack Jack, and they went into the crowd and started throwing them hands. David Tepper did not go into the crowd and throw hands, but he incited it, and the other guy was looking to jump into David's booth and maybe throw hands. There you go. How would you respond if you had been standing there outside of David Tepper's booth and you got hit with a couple ice cubes and maybe a little bit of maybe a Bombay tonic? You get a little Bombay tonic and a couple ice cubes in your hoodie, and it's from Jed, and you're at the Niner game. What are you doing?
I mean, what can you do? I guess it's easy to throw things at people from the comfort of your own luxury box, right?
Where there's security, an exit hatch.
I can tell
elevators.
You, if that happens, like in the stands, it's go time. It's go time again.
You got Jack there, you got Ozzy, you got the old lady, the whole deal.
That's now you've just changed the equation greatly.
Now Jack's gonna be scarred for life because somebody threw an ice cube at you, and Daddy decided to throw blows, and then all of a sudden somebody punched Daddy, and then kids are crying, and wife's mad.
Look, I completely believe that Jillian would be on the side of it's go time. My wife's got the squabbles in her.
Really?
Awesome. Jillian used to play rugby, dude. She's not fucking around. Yeah. So she's more of an athlete than I ever was. So Jillian will bench press a car. She's a badass. So yeah, I mean, I would also like to think it's an important lesson to let your kids know that, you got
sometimes in life you just got to kick ass. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm not a big believer that violence doesn't solve anything. It solved World War II very well. I think more violence needs to be executed. Like when you see
violence is the answer. Maybe you should get a T-shirt for the Damon Bruce Plus, and on the back you have violence is the answer.
When you see a parade of Nazis walking down the street in like La Crosse, Wisconsin, I truly believe the proper response is for everybody in La Crosse, Wisconsin to pick up a baseball bat and just beat those parading Nazis and their masks about their head and faces. Like sometimes you do have to drop the fuck you on someone. And Nazis, along with drink throwing billionaires, are right at my top of, no, we shouldn't let that happen anywhere in American society.
I can't see Jed doing that. Jed's a little bit more, he's a little smoother than that. I can't. Which owner in the Bay Area is most likely to throw a cup of ice and the remnants of a Bombay tonic at a fan? Joe Lacob, Jed York, Charles Johnson, or Charles Johnson's kid?
Neither. None of the above.
John Fisher.
John Fisher would have done that. Oh, no, I guess John Fisher would actually have to be at the game to do that.
Yeah, John Fisher. John Fisher would not want to waste the drink. He'd be like, yeah, man, I need that money.
Yeah. Here's the thing. There's no owner here in the Bay Area that would do that, right? There's no owner in the Bay Area who would do that. You got to be some sort of real. I don't know what was said to David Tepper to make him do that. Because if that was just about
what could have set off Tep, what could have set off DT?
DT. What's up with DT, man? Why is he acting like this? DT's normally pretty cool.
I like the way he spun that cup down too. It wasn't just it was like like when you score a touchdown, you spin the football.
Totally.
He didn't just throw the cup down, he kind of spun it.
He did. Now that I see the celebration, I'm totally on Team Tepper on this one. I got the whole thing wrong, Larry. I love the celebration. That fan probably had it coming. No, here's the thing.
Be lit, which is a great moniker, says, I saw the shirt the other day, Damon, that said, give violence a chance.
Yeah. Look, I'm a big believer that an ass whooping can keep you honest. The biggest problem with Draymond Green is that not a single dude has stepped up to him and just straight up gone about mopping up the gym with his ass. Draymond Green would be a totally different person if he'd been humble pied with a pair of brass knuckles. I'm a big believer in an ass kicking humbles you and keeps you honest. And had Jordan Poole just absolutely fired back and just given Draymond a straight up combo meal.
A 3-piece, as Tim Ryan would describe, a 3-piece spicy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. With potato wedges on the side.
Get it at Pig in a Pickle. That'll be the new one. Damon, let's go with the 3-piece spicy.
I like it. But I think that bullies, the only way to deal with a bully is with another bully.
Would Larry Bear pull that move? Could you see him throwing ice and the remnants of a Bombay tonic at Giants fans?
No.
Larry, how come you hired Farhan?
No.
Really? Bombay tonic. There you go.
I don't see it.
No, he's a little smooth. He's a little too. He'd be worried about some kind of legal ramifications.
Right. No, I don't see that happening in the Bay Area. I mean, again, look, I'd like to think we're a little bit more. We're little
beyond that here. We're beyond
more decorum out here. Yeah. I mean, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe we should throw fists more. I don't know.
Harold McAllister, drink throwing rich guys. It would be a great show. Rich guys throwing drinks at people.
At the fans who buy their tickets.
At the people who pay the freight. These are my customers. Take that, peasants. Have the remnants of my Bombay.
There really is a let them eat cake element to that, isn't there?
That's ballsy when you win one game. I mean, if you're 8-8 or better, that's one thing. But you're 1-16 and you're throwing drinks. I think I would. I think I need Bryce Young to have a better touchdown to interception ratio before I'm throwing drinks.
Right. If you're going to hit me in the back of the head with the remaining slush of your ice cube, you better have won at least 4 games. You can't be a 1-win team throwing drinks around the room.
One more super here from Harold McAllister. 49ers got bullied by 3 AFC North teams. Are they really a physical team? I think they are.
What are you watching? What are you watching? By the way, the AFC North might be the best division in football this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the AFC North has been fantastic.
Somebody says DeBartolo would have thrown his drink. I don't think so. Eddie D, I doubt it. Eddie D would have bought that guy a drink.
Oh yeah, and flown him to Hawaii.
Eddie D would have said, "Hey, I know you think you're mad. I'm more mad. As mad as you are, I'm more mad." Eddie D was like the voice of the fan. The reason Eddie D is so beloved is because his bottom line jived with the fans' bottom line. Eddie D lost $10 million one of the years in the 80s. The Niners won the Super Bowl. He didn't care.
Didn't care.
He didn't care. His bottom line was winning Super Bowls. Now you got the giant Charles Johnson's kid saying, hey, we got to break even. You got to break even. You bought the thing for $400 million. It's worth $4 billion.
Right.
You're saying you got to break even is the most moronic statement in the history of Bay Area sports ownership.
Right. You literally, your dad owns Charles Schwab.
I mean, what are you talking about?
Money.
You need to break even.
If we went into your bank account and just started burning $100 bills, it would take several calendar years to burn all your $100 bills. That's how
you have been paid back for your investment. You have been paid back tenfold. You're the recipient of the biggest real estate development project in the history of the city of San Francisco. Your great grandkids are set for life, and you're worried about making a profit in 2024. We just need to make a profit. Why? It's your birthright to make a profit in the present and the future. I mean, the arrogance of that statement was so off the charts.
What's the point of being rich if you can't afford to lose money?
These guys who used to own these teams used to be sportsmen. Now it's like, well, we're businessmen. No, you're cheap asses is what you are.
Yeah. Well, look, I think I don't know, was I talking to you off the air about this, but talking about the radio stations in this town? The radio stations in this town aren't even in the business of broadcasting anymore. Both radio stations in this town are in the business of making sure some corporate accounting page comes out better than it might have as they go to file for bankruptcy anyways. Every single, both 95.7 The Game and KNBR aren't even radio stations trying to serve their listeners anymore. They are accountants trying to juggle and manipulate, the spreadsheets. That's all they are. We have two companies dealing with spreadsheets. Owning a radio station has nothing to do with broadcasting, nothing to do with correct information, nothing to do with entertainment, nothing to do with serving a listener. It is serving a billionaire spreadsheet. That's all that's happening on either station. So, welcome to YouTube. Larry and I are here to serve you. Thank you very much. Hit like and subscribe.
There you go. Should we call it here? We're 2 hours and 16 minutes into our live stream. Do you have more topics that you'd like to hit? Do you want to be like Hacksaw Hamilton? Excellent topic, my friend. I'm glad you brought it up.
Larry, I think we'd be off topic if we tried to say anything other than the 49ers are the 1 seed. Everything you wanted. How many people a week ago had just the sky falling and Purdy's not it and the Ravens exposed us and undressed us and we'll never win another game?
Shanahan's not him. Purdy's not him. Nobody's him. Everybody's not him.
He's not him. She's not she.
She's not she.
They're not they.
They are she. She is they.
She is them. We are the world.
We are him. Him is he.
Him is us. We are them.
We are them. Them be us.
We be them. We be them. We be him. Him be us. It's just fucking ridiculous. And these Shanahan can't coach a week later. They're the first.
Shanahan
can't coach a week later. They're the first team in NFL history.
It's all on Shanahan.
Yeah. First team ever to have a running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end. Each have 1,000 yards. Shanahan's not running the ball. He doesn't know how to run the ball anymore, Larry. He's late. Larry's lazy.
He's fucking lazy. I love that Shanahan, but he's fucking lazy. Oh, my God. Shanahan is not the guy. You wanted to rip Brock, but Brock's nearly the MVP, so you can't rip Brock. It's like, oh, man, I got this YouTube channel, and I wanted to park in the corner of Brock Purdy's ass should be fired, and I can't. I'm losing subscribers, and nobody's buying my garbage. Shanahan.
Look at it
on
this way.
Shanahan.
Larry.
This team had Chip Kelly, it had Tom Sula.
If
they were
Shanahan,
7 and 7,000 or whatever the 2 years before Shanahan gets here. Shanahan.
If the Niners win the Super Bowl this year, the day after they win the Super Bowl, if they do it, I want Shanahan to walk into his local DMV and change his name to Shanahan.
Seriously.
Kyle Shanahan.
He is him.
Because if he won a Super Bowl, Shanahan would become Shanahan. He would be him at that point.
You know what? You know what I was thinking? Because the misery never, loves to go on and on. So you can't rip Purdy. Okay, but now, then it was like Shanahan. Okay, so then now, if Shanahan gets the Super Bowl, you won't be able to rip Shanahan. I can already see it. It was just a down year for the NFL.
Right. No, they've already, and someone on here.
The Niners, they won the Super Bowl, and Purdy was really good, and Shanahan. Yeah, they scored 42 in the Super, but you know what? It was just a down year for the league. That's how the Niners did it. It's not even a real Super Bowl. It was a down year. It was a down year for the NFL. It's not about Shanahan. Shanahan got lucky. It's just a down year.
Yeah.
You think I push back on Dink and Dunk? I'm going to push back on it's a down year for the NFL in just the worst fucking way. I mean, I'm going to be crapping all over anybody who says it's a down year for the NFL.
This guy in the chat says, and if they lose, Damon, well, you following along? If they lose, his name is still Shanahan. If they win, he's Shanahan. I'll tell you what, wouldn't it be great if the Niners win the Super Bowl and then next year, week 1, they come out and on the back of everyone's jersey on the nameplate, it just says him. Everyone is a him. He is him. I hate that saying.
Robert Baldacci. Larry Krueger wants to start drinking. Larry, I'm coming to the Bay in May. Sean Wilford. Larry is drunk. Larry was a little drunk last night, but I feel like I've bounced back well. I really feel like I've bounced back well.
Well, it's because you're him.
I'm him. I'm not they, but I am him. And they are him.
They are them.
They are them.
And we are us.
Daniel Shabazz. A lot of verbal maneuvering. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All I can tell you, Larry, is that, I really wanted to go ahead and see if the 49ers could do it. And so I wrote down in an envelope, 1 seed. And what do you know?
Damon, I realize you think you know a lot about the Big Ten. I've heard you talking about Indiana. So that's the thing about Trent Baalke. If you're going to do a real good Trent Baalke, you've got to overemphasize every pronunciation. You really love the Big Ten, Damon. But let me tell you this, my friend. A.J. Jenkins, I had his name written down in an envelope. I had that envelope in the top desk drawer in my office here in Santa Clara. And I'll tell you, when I looked at it this morning, I thought to myself, I haven't even told Jim we're drafting this bust. But you know what? I'm going to tell him right now. Jimmy, you got A.J. Jenkins. And you got A.J. Jenkins as a bullet in your gun.
Fire!
Yeah. By the way, I love you say,
I wrote down in an envelope.
It's actually an envelope, but he's not him, so he wouldn't.
Listen, Mr. Radio Guy. You're going to have me on and ask me about my Thanksgiving side dishes. I knew it was a ploy then, and I know it's a ploy now. All right? And when I went on KMBR, I talked to this guy, the Razor. And let me say something, Damon. You're never going to be the Razor. All right.
See, Damon, I told Jet, I told Tom, I told Tate, I told Craig. Craig gets so angry about the Giants, but I told Craig, Damon's good. He's got a nice little, little rap. He's got a nice, I don't rap, but and he's got a little nice rap, and he goes back and forth. But he'll never be me. He thinks he's me. He'll never be me.
He's not him. He's definitely not him. How do you
He's
think Ralph
definitely
is
not
doing
him.
in this era?
And if he ever went to Amici's, he would not get the lemon pepper wings. And if he did, he wouldn't get the atomic because I know Damon, he doesn't like spice. He's a Midwestern guy. He doesn't like spice. If he had been from Southern Cal or the East Coast, or maybe down in the bayou, he'd like spicy. He doesn't like spicy. He's from Indiana.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Enjoy January 1st, all these bowl games, and the 1 seed.
Peace.